I just sat in my car, watching as my wife kissed another man. They didn't see me parked behind them, that's how lost they were in each other. And I had a feeling things were about to go way beyond just kissing. You ever feel like you're living inside a snow globe, right before someone picks it up and gives it a good shake? That was me, parked just far enough from the hotel entrance to stay unseen, but close enough to see everything that mattered. The heater in my car blew warm air at my feet, but it couldn't do a thing about the cold sitting in my chest. Her name's Rachel. My wife. And right then, she was stepping out of a silver sedan with a man I didn't recognize. Tall guy. Clean-cut. Confident in the way that only comes when you think no one's watching. Or worse, when you don't care if they are. Rachel laughed. I hadn't heard that laugh in weeks. Not at home. Not over coffee. Not even when I brought up taking a weekend off, just the two of us. They were too close. He reached out, tucked a piece of her hair behind her ear, the way I used to when we were first dating. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She tilted her head and smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then they kissed. Not a casual goodbye. Not some awkward peck. This was different. Like they'd done it before. Like they planned it. I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not yet. Just this heavy, quiet realization, this is happening. I'm watching it happen. My hand gripped the steering wheel tighter. I could have driven away. I could have sat there and swallowed it, let the poison sink in slow. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped out of the car and walked across the lot like I wasn't even feeling my legs. Like I was floating. They were still wrapped up in each other when I reached the driver's side of that sedan. I knocked. 3 sharp taps against the glass. Not loud, just enough. Rachel's head snapped around so fast, you'd think she'd been caught doing something criminal. Her face went pale, lips parted, eyes wide. That's the look people make when they realize the world just changed, and there's no way back. But the man. He didn't even flinch. He just sat there in the driver's seat, hands calmly on the steering wheel, eyes on me like he was studying a puzzle. No fear. No guilt. Like he'd been expecting this moment all along. Rachel opened her door in a panic. Mark, wait, I didn't say a word. I turned and walked away, letting the sound of my footsteps be the only reply she got. Back in my car, I pulled the door shut harder than I meant to. My breath was coming faster now, chest tight like I'd been sprinting. The engine fired up with a low growl, and I drove off without checking the mirror. Because I didn't want to see her chasing after me. And I definitely didn't want to see if he followed her. What would you do, right there in that moment? Would you demand answers? Scream? Fall apart? Or would you do what I did, and start listening more than you speak? Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just an affair. Something else was going on. And I wasn't walking away from it. I was walking straight into it. She was yelling my name. Somewhere behind me, heels clicking on pavement, her breath cutting through the cold air like it was chasing the truth. But I didn't stop. I just kept walking toward my car like gravity had changed direction and the only thing holding me together was distance. The moment I knocked on that window, something shifted. Something irreversible. And no amount of her chasing me now could put it back. Mark. Please, wait. The car door groaned as I pulled it open and climbed in. I could see her through the windshield now, running, frantic, her coat flapping behind her like she'd just remembered the stakes. Like she only just realized what she had to lose. The passenger side door rattled once. Locked. She slapped the glass. Mark, talk to me. Please. Still, I didn't speak. I didn't look at her. Just reached for the gearshift, set my jaw, and pulled out of the space. As I eased past her, I caught one last glimpse, Rachel, breathless, tears stinging her eyes, mouth moving without sound. And then I was gone. Can you imagine that? The woman you built a life with, chasing your car in a hotel parking lot, begging for you to just listen. And all you can think is, too late. The drive home was quiet. No music. No thoughts loud enough to hold on to. Just a storm of snapshots playing behind my eyes, her face when she saw me, the way the guy didn't even blink, that kiss like it meant something. It's strange what you remember when your world shifts. The little things. Like the hotel's faded sign flickering in the rear view. Or the cherry lip balm she used to wear that I hadn't tasted in weeks, but somehow saw smeared faintly on the man's collar. She caught up to me at the house. 10 minutes later, headlights flashed across the front window, and I knew she'd followed. I didn't move. Didn't bother locking the door. I figured if she had something to say, she'd say it with or without an invitation. And sure enough, the door creaked open a second later. She didn't call my name this time. Just stepped in, closed it gently behind her like she was trying not to disturb something fragile. I stayed seated on the couch, back to her. She hovered in the hallway, just out of reach. Mark, her voice was small, like it belonged to someone else. I need to explain. I stared at the blank TV screen in front of me, catching my own reflection, eyes that looked older than they had that morning. She took a shaky step forward. I know what you think you saw, but I raised a hand. Still didn't look at her. She stopped mid-sentence. And for the first time in our entire marriage, I saw her fall completely silent, not because she was choosing her words, not because she was planning her next move, but because she didn't know how to fix this. That silence. It said more than anything she could have explained. She stayed there for a few more seconds, maybe hoping I'd turn around. Say something. Give her a chance to feed me a version I'd believe. But I didn't. Eventually, I heard her footsteps retreat down the hall. The soft click of our bedroom door. And just like that, we were two people, alone in the same house, carrying two entirely different versions of the truth. What I didn't know then was this: the version Rachel wanted to give me. It wasn't the real one. And the man in that parking lot. He wasn't just someone she kissed. The hardest part about silence. It's not the quiet itself. It's the noise it lets in, the doubts, the what-ifs, the replay reel of every moment that now feels like a lie. That night, I didn't sleep. Rachel didn't try to talk again, not after I cut her off. I heard her moving around the bedroom, soft thuds of drawers, a closet door creaking open and shut. Eventually, the light under the door went out. But I stayed where I was, on the couch, staring at the ceiling like it held answers. It didn't. Come morning, the house was tense, but not loud. You know, the kind of quiet where even the sound of the coffee maker feels too sharp. That was our kitchen. Rachel came in like nothing had happened. Ponytail up, blouse tucked neatly into her slacks, sipping from her favorite mug, the one with the chipped handle she refused to throw away. She said something about her schedule. A meeting at 9, back around 6. Like we were still living in that world, the one where I didn't know what she was hiding. I didn't say a word. Just nodded, kept my eyes on the newspaper I wasn't reading. She hovered a second too long before finally leaving. The moment the door clicked shut, I exhaled, the kind of breath you don't know you're holding until your chest starts to burn. That was day one. Over the next few days, she tried small talk. Casual things. Did you see the forecast? We need more coffee. The dryer's making that sound again. Each time, I answered with short, empty phrases. Not cold. Just distant. Like we were co-workers who used to be friends. But behind that mask, I was busy. I started noticing things I hadn't before, or maybe things I'd chosen not to see. She kept her phone close now. Always face down. Always silenced. She'd started using the downstairs bathroom more. Spent longer in the shower. Her laptop was no longer left open on the table like before, now it traveled with her from room to room. And when she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched. Listened. Collected. That Thursday, I bought a set of security cameras. I told myself it was for peace of mind. But deep down, I knew the real reason. I didn't trust her anymore, and that hurt more than the betrayal itself. It wasn't about catching her in another lie. It was about finding out how deep the first one went. While she was at work, I installed them. Living room. Kitchen. Driveway. Discreet, hidden well. Nothing invasive, just enough to see who came and went, to map the truth behind her schedule. And then I started digging. Not into her texts, not yet. That felt like too big a step. But I started with the simple things, her job. She worked at a nonprofit downtown, something to do with community outreach. I pulled up the website, checked the team page. No mention of him. The men from the car. I scrolled through press releases, blog posts, archived newsletters. No pictures, no names that rang a bell. I checked her LinkedIn. Nothing out of place. But then again, people don't list their secrets on resumes. I started writing down patterns, when she left, when she came back, how long her calls lasted when she stepped outside to get better reception. I wasn't looking to ruin her. I just wanted to know if the story I was living in was real, or a carefully constructed set. And the more I looked, the more something gnawed at the back of my mind. That man from the parking lot. He didn't look like someone passing through. He looked comfortable in that chaos. Like he wasn't just part of the lie. Maybe he was helping write it. You ever get the sense that the truth is hiding in plain sight, just waiting for you to stop trusting words and start watching actions? That was the thought in my head as I sat in the parking garage downtown, engine still humming, fingers drumming the steering wheel. Her building was a clean glass rectangle, all modern lines and smiling faces passing through the lobby like their lives made perfect sense. Rachel said she had meetings all day. Said she wouldn't be home until 6. But what she didn't know was I was already 3 blocks away, watching, waiting. I didn't plan it. It wasn't some big moment of gotcha. It was more like a quiet instinct that tugged me toward her office like a magnet. I just needed to see something for myself, anything that grounded her story in reality. The receptionist barely looked up when I walked in. A clipboard, a smile, the usual security badge. "I'm here to see Rachel Connors," I said. She smiled back, polite and brisk. "Rachel? You mean Rachel from Donor Outreach?" I nodded. "That's the one." She tapped a few keys, tilted her head. "She's not in today." I paused. "Are you sure?" She said she had back-to-back meetings here. Another check. This time a little slower. "No, she didn't clock in. She hasn't been on the schedule all week." The air shifted. Suddenly the lobby was too bright, the sound of typing too loud, the security guard's walkie-talkie too sharp in my ear. I forced a nod, thanked her, turned, and walked right back out, slow, steady, careful. I didn't want to make a scene. But inside, everything cracked. She hadn't just lied about a meeting. She'd lied about the whole day. And if she wasn't here, where was she? I stood on the sidewalk, pretending to check my phone while the wind cut across my neck like a warning. The hotel flashed in my mind, the one from last week. And the man. I knew I'd seen something in his face, something still bugging me. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't scrambling to cover it up. He looked like he had nothing to lose. And maybe that's because he didn't work with her at all. I turned around, went back inside. "Quick question," I said, smiling like it wasn't eating me alive. "Does Rachel have a coworker named Daniel? About 6 foot, short dark hair, clean cut." The receptionist shook her head. "Daniel? No, we don't have anyone by that name. Not in Outreach. Not in the whole building, actually." That was all I needed. Whatever Rachel was doing, it had nothing to do with work. And the man she was with. He was no coworker. He was something else entirely. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about guilt, it doesn't knock down the door. It seeps in through the cracks. Quiet. Subtle. Like smoke under a doorframe. By the time I got home that night, the house already felt off. The lights were dimmer than usual. Rachel was in the kitchen, scrubbing a perfectly clean dish like it had insulted her mother. She looked up when I walked in, that split-second flicker in her eyes told me everything. Not surprise. Not joy. Just panic. "Hey," she said quickly, like she'd been practicing the line for hours. "You're home early." I wasn't. I was right on time. I nodded and hung up my coat. Didn't say much. Just watched her for a moment, the way her hand trembled slightly as she set the plate in the drying rack. Her movements weren't rushed, they were calculated. Too smooth. Too practiced. "How was work?" I asked, casual. She didn't flinch, not yet. "Busy. Meetings ran long. I barely had time for lunch." I let the silence stretch. Didn't ask a follow-up. Didn't call her out. Just nodded again and walked into the living room like it was any other night. And that, more than anything, seemed to rattle her. She followed a minute later, stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, like she didn't know where to place them. "Mark," she said, soft, "can we, maybe talk?" I looked at her from the couch. Sure. But she didn't move. Didn't sit. "I know things have been tense. I just want to fix this." There it was, the crack. The first real one. I gave a half smile. "You'll have to be more specific." She blinked. "About the other night. About that man." Her voice hitched ever so slightly on the word man. Like even naming him tasted wrong in her mouth. I didn't respond. Just watched. She stepped closer, hands tightening at her sides. It wasn't what it looked like. I didn't ask what it was. I just leaned back into the couch cushions and said, "Okay." That threw her. You could see the confusion swimming behind her eyes. She wanted a reaction, anything to give her a foothold. But I wasn't offering her a rope this time. I was just observing. The next few days. That's when it all started slipping. She began deleting messages before I could hear her phone buzz. I'd catch her staring into the backyard while pretending to water plants that didn't need it. She stopped sleeping soundly, tossing, turning, checking her phone at 2 a.m. like the answers would appear there. She started throwing out clothes I hadn't seen her wear in months. I found a pair of shoes, unfamiliar heels, shoved into the back of her closet, soles scuffed like they'd walked circles around a secret. She stopped meeting my gaze. She used to hold it, even when we argued, even when she lied. But now, her eyes darted away every time mine lingered too long. That's how I knew. The guilt was working. It was dragging her down, and she was starting to drown. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Sometimes the best way to learn the truth is to act like you already know it, and just wait. Because if there's one thing about liars, they unravel themselves. Eventually. It was a Tuesday night when she finally said it. The kind of night where nothing dramatic happens. No rain. No slammed doors. Just the low hum of the dishwasher and the faint echo of traffic from a few blocks over. We'd had dinner, if you could call it that. Takeout, eaten in silence at opposite ends of the kitchen island. No eye contact. No conversation. Just the sound of forks tapping cardboard containers and two people pretending this was still a home. Afterward, she lingered near the sink while I wiped down the counter. I could feel her staring at the back of my head, not with anger. With something closer to desperation. "Mark," her voice cracked just enough to make me pause. "Can we talk?" I set the cloth down slowly. Turned toward her. "Now?" I asked, calm as ever. She nodded, arms folded across her chest like armor. "I don't want to keep doing this." The silence. The tension. I miss you." The words hung there, flimsy and heavy at the same time. She stepped closer, cautiously, like one wrong move might set everything on fire. "I want to fix this," she whispered. "Whatever's left of it." I tilted my head. "Fix what, exactly?" She swallowed hard. Her hands were shaking now, not dramatically, just enough that I noticed. She looked up at me, and I saw it. The cracks were no longer hairline fractures. They were wide open. "I know you don't believe me. About the other night. About him." Her voice dropped lower. "But I want to be honest. You deserve that." I didn't move. Just waited. She hesitated, then stepped closer until we were only a few feet apart. "His name's Adrian," she said. "We used to be close. A long time ago. Before you and I." My jaw tightened, but I said nothing. She went on, like the words had been building up behind a dam that was now giving way. "He's going through a divorce. It's messy. He reached out a few months ago. Said he had no one else to talk to." She wouldn't look me in the eyes now. I didn't plan for anything to happen. I was just trying to help. It started with coffee, a couple late-night calls. It felt harmless, at first. I watched her closely, every twitch of her mouth, every pause like she was editing as she went. She looked up finally. The other night wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to kiss him. It just did. I let the silence do the heavy lifting. She took a step back, nervously wringing her hands. "I swear to you, Mark. That was it. A mistake. A moment. It's not some affair. It wasn't planned." The lie wasn't in the words. It was in the details. The way she avoided naming where they were. The fact that she called it a moment, like a kiss in a hotel parking lot, happens by accident. But I didn't call her out. Not yet. I just gave a slow nod. "So, nothing's been going on between you two? No contact since?" She hesitated. Shook her head. "Not anymore. Not anymore." I smiled, just a little. The kind of smile you give when you know someone's trying to sell you a story they haven't rehearsed enough. She stepped forward, reaching for my hand. "Can we start over? Please?" I looked at her fingers. The same hands that had once held mine on a beach in North Carolina, when we still believed nothing could touch us. I let her take my hand. Let her believe, for just a moment, that we were rebuilding. Because if she wanted to be honest, so did I. But I wasn't interested in her version. I was going to find the whole truth. On my terms. There's a certain kind of silence that comes after someone lies to your face, a thick, slow quiet that seeps into your bones. You don't even need proof, not really. Because deep down, you just know. And I knew. Rachel's confession wasn't for me, it was for her. She needed to offload just enough guilt to breathe again. But the truth? The real truth? That was still locked away behind her eyes, in the parts of her story she conveniently skipped over. I went along with it. I nodded. I even let her hold my hand for a few seconds longer than I should have. Because if you want to catch someone in a lie, the last thing you do is let them know you're hunting. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Her breathing slowed the way it used to when she was truly out, a rhythm I used to find comfort in. Now, I studied it like a metronome for someone else's performance. I slipped out of bed, padded barefoot down the hallway, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. Pulled up a name I couldn't forget now, Adrian. If he was going through a divorce like she said, there'd be a paper trail. And after 20 minutes of searching local court records, there it was. Adrian Tyler Reynolds. Petition filed 3 months ago. No kids. No property dispute. Just a clean break listed as irreconcilable. It checked out. Too easily. A part of me almost wanted it to be messy. Wanted to find red flags, restraining orders, something that screamed run. But instead, I got nothing. Nothing but a man trying to disappear quietly. Which only made my stomach turn more. I checked the security footage next, the ones I'd installed the day after the parking lot. Nothing dramatic yet, but it confirmed something Rachel had forgotten to lie about, the calls. Almost every night, after she thought I was asleep, she slipped outside. Sometimes for 5 minutes. Sometimes 20. Always with her phone. Always looking over her shoulder. The worst part? She came back in softer. Lighter. Like talking to him gave her peace I couldn't anymore. That next morning, I made her coffee, black, just how she liked it. She smiled and said, "Thank you," like we were finding our rhythm again. She kissed my cheek on her way out, and for a split second, it felt almost normal. Almost. I waited 10 minutes after she pulled out of the driveway, then grabbed my keys. And I followed her. She didn't go to work. She didn't even pretend this time. She drove 15 miles north, past the city, past the industrial zone, into a quiet stretch of residential streets. Newer builds, privacy fences, rental properties. She pulled into a driveway. Unlocked the front door of a small brick house with white trim and a mailbox that didn't have a name on it. She used a key. She'd been here before. And she stayed inside for over an hour. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't knock. I just watched. And when she came out, she didn't look shaken. She didn't look guilty. She looked calm. Content. That was when I knew. Her story wasn't just a lie, it was the cover story for something bigger. And this man, Adrian, he wasn't just a mistake from the past. He was part of something Rachel hadn't dared confess, not because she couldn't, but because if she did, it might ruin everything. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove around for a while, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to the ground. Because now I had a new question. Not, was she cheating? But what else is she hiding? The next morning, I was at that house before the sun came up. It looked different in daylight, not warmer, not safer, just exposed. Like catching someone in the middle of getting dressed, pretending they weren't doing anything wrong. A rental, maybe. It had that sterile, temporary feel, like whoever was staying there didn't plan to put down roots. I parked a few houses down. Walked the sidewalk slow, hoodie pulled up, baseball cap low. Subtle. Just another early jogger or a guy walking off a hangover. When I got to the house, I crouched by the mailbox. No name. Just a number. I opened it. Empty. But taped to the inside wall. A small key, spare, maybe. Easy to miss unless you were looking for it. I took it. My heart was thudding like it knew I was about to step over a line you don't come back from. I ignored it. Slipped the key in the lock. It turned smooth, like she used it all the time. The door swung open into silence. No furniture except a small couch. A table pushed up against the far wall. Curtains drawn, but light sneaking through the edges. No pictures on the walls. No mess. No signs of a life being lived. Just the faint scent of citrus cleaner and something sharper, colder beneath it, like steel and ink. I moved slow, every footstep careful, like the house might speak if I stepped too loud. The table had papers on it. A folder. Receipts. I didn't touch them yet. I checked the kitchen. Empty fridge. One wine glass in the sink. No dishes. Like whoever stayed here didn't eat much, or didn't plan to stay long enough to need a plate. The bedroom down the hall was just as bare, mattress on the floor, no headboard. Sheets that hadn't been changed in a while. A phone charger. A pair of earrings on the nightstand. Rachel's. I knew those earrings. Gave them to her on our 5th anniversary. Silver twists. She said they made her feel grown up. Now they were here. I went back to the living room. Picked up the folder. What I found inside made my stomach turn. Cash transfers. 10,000 here. 5 there. All under small businesses I didn't recognize, consulting firms that didn't even have websites. One thing they all had in common. They were wired to an account with a name I hadn't heard in years. Rachel's maiden name. That wasn't an accident. That was hiding in plain sight. I kept flipping. Driver's licenses. 3 of them. All with Rachel's photo. All with different names. Different states. Fake. The kind you only get when you're building a second life, or running from one. And tucked in the back of the folder. A lease agreement. This house, in her maiden name. 6-month rental. Paid in full, in cash. I stood there for a long time, holding those papers like they might burst into flames. This wasn't about an affair anymore. This was something else. Something deeper. More calculated. She didn't just lie to me. She was living 2 lives, and now, I'd walked straight into the one she tried to bury. By the time I got home, I didn't feel angry anymore. That was the scary part. Because anger means you still feel something. Still care, in some twisted, desperate way. But this was cold. Mechanical. Like flipping a switch in your own chest and choosing not to bleed anymore. Rachel was already back when I walked through the door. She looked up from the couch, legs tucked under her, book in hand, the one she always pretended to be reading when she didn't want to talk. She smiled. "Hey, you were out early." I smiled back, just as smooth. Had a few things to take care of. It wasn't a lie. Just not the version of the truth she'd recognize. What I didn't say was that I'd just come from the house she'd hidden under a name she no longer claimed, the house where she kept documents that could burn everything down. She didn't suspect a thing. That night, after she fell asleep, phone under her pillow like a child clinging to a secret, I got to work. I'd ordered the camera 2 days earlier. Small. Discreet. Tucked inside what looked like a generic air freshener. Motion activated. Audio included. I placed it in the hallway where she always took her calls. Right across from the downstairs bathroom where she liked to whisper into her phone after midnight. I angled it just enough to catch her face in profile, and her words when she thought no one was listening. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The very next evening, around 11:30, she got up, quiet steps on the hardwood. I stayed perfectly still in bed, breathing slow, watching the numbers on the clock glow. I heard the faint click of the bathroom door. The soft creak as she leaned against the hallway wall. Her voice was hushed, but not quiet enough. I checked the footage the next morning. Watched her tuck the phone between her ear and shoulder, arms crossed, one leg bent against the wall. Like this was routine. Like she'd done it 100 times. "I told you I'd take care of it," she whispered. "He still doesn't know. He's just watching me. But it's fine. I can handle him." She paused. "I already got the last of it out. The rest stays hidden. Until I leave." Leave. She didn't elaborate. Just stood there, chewing the inside of her cheek. Then, softer, "I've got the lawyer on standby. We'll do this clean. No drama. I just need to wait for the right moment. He's not a threat, not yet. Not yet." That was the moment I stopped the playback. I sat there for a long time at the kitchen table, watching the screen go still. Her silhouette frozen in mid-sentence, lips parted like she was about to step deeper into a truth she had no idea I was already holding. She didn't just cheat. She was planning an exit. She was organizing it like a campaign, one where I wasn't the husband. I was the obstacle. And I realized something then: this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about survival. Hers. Not mine. The funny thing about betrayal is, it doesn't stop at the moment you catch it. It grows roots. It spreads. And the deeper I dug, the more I realized this wasn't just infidelity. It was a strategy. Rachel wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was trying to escape it. And I was in her way. The day after the recording, I did what she never expected. I smiled, made her breakfast, and acted like we were fine. Scrambled eggs, her favorite toast, even orange juice in the tall glass she liked. She looked at me sideways, suspicious. "You're in a good mood today," she said, voice careful. "Why wouldn't I be?" I answered, grinning like I hadn't just watched her whisper my name like a problem she planned to solve. She didn't ask more. That was the new version of her, the version that didn't push too hard because she thought she'd already won. I waited until she left the house. Said she was heading into the office, ironic, considering she hadn't actually been to her office in over a week. I gave her a 10-minute head start. Then I followed. She didn't go to work. She went to a law firm downtown. I parked across the street and watched her step inside a beige building with a modest gold plaque next to the door, Green and Callahan, Family Law. Family Law. The kind of place where marriages are turned into paperwork and visitation calendars. I sat there, watching, as 30 minutes passed. Then 45. I didn't expect to catch a name. But as she stepped out, I snapped a photo. Just for me. Just in case. She looked calm again. Not guilty, ready. That evening, I said nothing. I waited until after dinner. After the dishes were washed. After she settled in to watch one of those mindless baking shows we used to love. I even laughed at a few jokes, asked if she wanted popcorn. Then, around 9:45, I stepped into the bedroom and opened her laptop. I'd never snooped before. That's the kind of thing I used to think meant a relationship was already broken. Now, it was necessary. Her browser was clean. Too clean. But her recent documents? Not so much. There it was, a draft labeled simply, Custody Strategy, Notes. I opened it. My hands went cold. She'd mapped it all out. Not just a divorce, a full exit plan. Talking points for mediation. A financial breakdown of our accounts. Private statements about emotional distance, communication breakdown, and, this one hit the hardest, a clear lack of stability in his behavior. She was painting a picture. Not of us, but of me. A version of me I didn't recognize. One she could present to a judge. One that justified whatever story she was trying to sell. There were even references to protecting future assets and ensuring custody remains balanced in favor of maternal continuity. Maternal continuity. She was trying to make me look unstable. Dangerous, even. I sat there staring at that phrase, repeating it in my head like it might change meaning if I said it enough times. But it didn't. It meant exactly what it sounded like. She wanted the kids. She wanted the house. And she wanted me written out. I waited until the house was quiet. Not just silent, still. Still in that eerie, breath-held kind of way. Like the walls knew something was coming. Like even the shadows were listening. Rachel was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, a half-empty glass of wine in one hand, wearing the same sweatshirt she always wore on what she called normal nights. Funny how normal starts to feel like camouflage once you know what's behind it. I stepped into the doorway. Calm. Steady. She looked up, smiling. Hey. Thought you were in bed. I was. I paused. Couldn't sleep. She set the glass down, a flicker of tension crossing her eyes. Everything okay? And I nodded, once, as I reached into my back pocket and placed a folder on the counter between us. The same folder I'd taken from the house she thought I'd never find. The same folder with her secret documents, false IDs, and a lease under a name she hadn't used since before I knew her. She didn't touch it. But her face. That changed everything. The mask dropped. What is this? She asked, voice tight. You tell me. She hesitated, just for a second. Long enough to confirm everything I already knew. You went into that house. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Like I was the one crossing lines. You mean the one rented under your maiden name? I said, slow and even. Yeah. I went in. Hope I didn't mess up the plan. Her jaw tensed. You shouldn't have done that. No, Rachel. I stepped closer. You shouldn't have done this. I pulled out the fake IDs, fanned them across the counter like playing cards. 3 different names. Out-of-state driver's licenses. Cash transfers to ghost companies. A lawyer working a custody plan behind my back. She didn't say anything. Didn't cry. Didn't deny. Just stood there, eyes locked on mine like the truth was too loud to silence. Tell me the truth, I said, my voice lower now. No games. No half-stories. What is this really about? Was it ever about him? Her voice cracked, barely audible. No, I clenched my fists. Then what, Rachel? What the hell have I been living in? She looked down, hands trembling slightly. And then she said the one thing I didn't expect, it was never about love, Mark. My breath caught. She finally looked up, and what I saw wasn't hate. It wasn't even regret. It was survival. I was drowning. You didn't see it. You were happy with routine, with just enough. But I needed more control, more safety. He helped me get it. The documents, the second name, the fallback plan. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about him. It was about getting out before I disappeared. My chest went hollow. So you staged an affair, I said, stunned, just to push me away. She didn't flinch. I thought it'd be easier if you hated me. I didn't expect you to dig. I picked up the folder. You built an escape hatch and left me inside the burning house. Her eyes welled up, but no tears fell. And that's when I knew. She wasn't sorry. Not for what she did. Just for getting caught. I turned to leave, but stopped in the doorway. I already filed, I said over my shoulder. She blinked. Filed what? Divorce. This morning. Papers are signed and submitted. She took a shaky step forward. Mark, wait. We can. No, I turned. Met her eyes for the last time. You don't get to lie for months, build an exit plan, and then ask to rewrite the ending. I walked to the door, grabbed the bag I packed 2 nights ago, and opened it without hesitation. The air outside hit me like a second wind. One last time, I looked back, and there she was. Not crying. Not begging. Just standing in the kitchen, frozen between 2 worlds she built and broke all by herself. I stepped into the night. The door clicked shut behind me. Some betrayals don't end with fireworks. Some end with a whisper and a locked door. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is walk away first. If this story hit you somewhere deep, drop a comment. Share your thoughts. And remember, sometimes losing someone is how you find yourself again.